In this video, I'm going to show you how you can master n8n just by learning 17 nodes. And these are the exact same ones that we use pretty much 80% of the time when building automations for clients. And honestly, these are probably the only ones that you'll ever need. And in case we haven't met, my name is Michele, and over the past 12 months, I helped over 40 businesses implement AI and automations and taught over 17,000 people in the process, all starting with zero technical knowledge. So if you're looking to fast track your learning with n8n without having to go through 100 tutorials, well, let's dive in. So the first one is the trigger. Now the trigger is essentially the first step of the automation. Like what is that thing that starts the automation for us to then do the next steps? In n8n, we have different types of triggers. The first one is a manual trigger. So we can just execute the workflow manually. Now this right here is something that we use most of the times just for testing, right? Because we want to test something. So there has to be a first step. And that's where we add a manual trigger. Now, the second one is a schedule trigger. So this trigger right here is primarily used when you want to run the automation, let's say once a week, once a month, or a certain interval of time. So if I go in here, I can see that I can run it in seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and even custom. So this is cron, which you can put your maybe every 2 p.m. on a Tuesday or every 3 p.m. on a Friday of every month. And you have different settings that you can put so that you're able to run the automation at a very specific time of the month, of the year, of the week, of the day, right? So to give you a use case, let's say we had a content system. Let's say we wanted to generate content automatically every single day. What we would do here is we would go to trigger interval, which is days, 1, midnight, and trigger at minute 0. And this is where we put this as the first step of the automation so that it runs every 1 day at midnight of the week, right? So we're able to run the automation without us having to manually trigger it. And this is for the time trigger. And then we have the Typeform trigger. Now, this is just to show you an example of a trigger that is not native to n8n. These two are native to n8n, which means that n8n owns those nodes. But in this case, Typeform is not n8n. It's a different platform. And so Typeform itself is a platform that generates forms. So we can generate forms. And this trigger right here starts whenever someone fills out the hiring form in this case. So I have the form pulled out here, which is a form that is connected to this Typeform trigger. And what happens is that whenever someone fills out the form, this sends a signal to this node because it's an on-app trigger that will allow us to then be notified and start the automation. So I'm going to press execute workflow. As you can see now, this is waiting for you to create an event in Typeform, which is waiting for me to fill out the form. I'm going to press submit. And as you can see here, this is now triggered. And we got the data, the name, the email, the phone number, and location as well, right? So this essentially is an on-app trigger, which means that it triggers whenever a single app starts something or whenever something happens within an app that we can all find right here. Add another trigger. We have all these triggers, and the on-app event is the one that you can use for whatever it is. So these are all different softwares that can be the first step of the automation that triggers whenever something happens within that software. Now, the next part of the nodes are going to be storage solutions. Now, the storage solutions is just a fancy way to say we use nodes that allow us to store information in them, right? And so typically we use Google Sheets. We can use Airtable. We can use Notion. We can use n8n's new native data tables, which only came out a few days ago, in order to store information. Now, this could be a simple Google Sheet that looks like this, which has full name, email address, location, and phone, but could also mean a data table within n8n, which has name, email, phone number, and location, which is the exact same. The only difference is that one is stored in n8n and the other one is stored in Google Sheets. So let me show you exactly what I mean here. Let me put the manual execution here. And I can see that inside, I am adding a row. So append a row means I'm adding a row in the n8n 17 nodes, which is the name of the Google Sheet right here. And I'm putting the first name or the full name as Michele Torti. The email is this and the location is this. I can press execute workflow, which will now run the step right here. And it will add the row into the Google Sheet, which would be Michele, email, and location as well. And I can also add the phone, which you can also add by refreshing. And let me add, let's do 1, 555, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I execute the step again, I can now see that I will have a new row that will be added here with email, location, and this as well. Now, the reason why it gives us an error is because Google Sheet doesn't like when you put plus signs or equal signs and so on, because these are native equations within Google Sheets. But you get the gist here. You just store information into Google Sheet. The second one is within the n8n data tables. So let me connect this. And in this case, we do the exact same thing. It will be new people because that is the name of the database. And we're adding the first name or the name as Michele Torti, my email, my phone number, and location as well. And if I press execute step, I can see that now it was successful. And if I go here and I refresh, I can now see that the data was added here. Full name, email, phone number, and location as well. Now, the amazing thing is that once you master Google Sheets and n8n's native data tables, you can pretty much use Airtable, you can use Notion, you can use Asana, ClickUp, all these places where you store information. They're all very, very similar, right? So if you understand one, the setup will be very, very similar for the other ones. All right, so now we get to the universal data processing. So here is where we manipulate data, right? Manipulate data just means that we take some sort of data that comes in and then we structure it in a way where it makes sense for us to structure it in. Now, in this case, I'm going to take the manual execution here. I'm going to attach it here. And I can see that inside the edit node, if I execute this step, I can see that I have an array, which is basically a list of people's information. So we have name, email, phone number, and location. David Smith, Emily Chen, Carlos Ramirez, and Aisha Khan. And these are basically giving me the different pieces of information. Now, the only problem with this is that, let's say we want to add this to our Google Sheet. We can't, because this is an array, which means that it's inside this right here. So this is where the split out comes in. So what this means is that if you want to process each name individually, right? If you want to process this right here individually, then this right here, then this right here, and this right here, and this right here as well, then we have to split them out. We have to take them, as you can see by the diagram here, it's taking them, which is a singular thing, and then it's splitting them out based on the amount of items that are in that array. So let me just show you, let me just run this right here. And let me show you that now we have 5 items. So as you can see here, it went from 1 item, which is the array, to 5 items. And so what we're doing here is we're processing each person's details individually through the automation in the next steps. And this is splitting out. So this is when you have an array and you want to split out each item of that array. Now, aggregate right here is the exact opposite. As you can see, the diagrams are opposites. And so what we do here is just bring it back to the way it was before, right? And if I press execute step, I can see that now I have the array that is back there, which is 1 item. So you can see we have 1 item, 5 items, and 1 item as well. Now, typically you will use split out whenever you have, because a lot of the times we get data all within the same array. We get a bunch of details, context, and so on, all within one singular item. And so what we want to do is go inside that item and take them out of each one and process them individually in case you want to add them individually to, let's say, a native data table or even a Google Sheet, right? You have to process each one individually for it to actually make sense to add them to a database or whatever it is that you want to do. Whilst this node right here, basically when we have a lot of information, that is a lot of items, and we want to put them all together, smash them all together to then send them through to the next steps, right? So it's aggregating data. So it's not everywhere. It's not in different places. It's all within one place. And then we get on to the logic, which is if. So this is saying if this equals to this, then it's true. If not, it's false. So if I say, in this case, let me just take this out. There we go right here. So let me say if the name contains Sarah, which should only be one name, then we send it through the true route, right? So if I go here, I can now see that only one went through here and the other ones went through here. Now this is great because automation, again, is logic. So if you want to send the automation in different ways based on whether something is true or false, then you can use the if node right here. Now the switch node is a bit different because it gives you more flexibility, right? Let me show you exactly what I mean. Let me say right here, inside, I have options to basically route the automation. So I can say if the name equals to Sarah Johnson, if the name equals David Smith, then we can rename the output to Sarah, rename the output to David. And what this will do is that it will run through every single one. And the ones that are Sarah, or Sarah Smith in this case, Sarah Johnson, it will send them through Sarah. And if it's David Smith, then it will send it through David. So if I run this, I can see that we only have 1 item and 1 item here because those are the only ones that applied to that logic. And so how is this different from if? Well, if only gives you the opportunity to add conditions, but don't add more than true or false options. Whilst here, you can put as many options as you want. And this is great because you could have a use case where you have emails. You categorize the emails based on whether they're FAQ, whether they are promotional, whether they are just normal, whether they are something else. And an AI categorizes it. And then you can use a switch node to then say, if the email is FAQ, then you send it this way. If it's something else, then you send it this way. If it's something else as well, because you can keep adding root rules, you can say, if this equals to whatever, just hello, you can rename it to FAQ, and this will be another option, right? And you can do as many options as you want which is amazing because that allows us to be able to route the automation based on the type of input or the output that we get in the previous step. All right, then we have the code node. Now the code node is amazing because it allows us to be able to do a lot of things at once. And code is one of the things that, again, a lot of no-code platforms don't have because in the name, no code. But the fact that n8n added the code option here made it so much easier for us to be able to transform information from unstructured to structured in the easiest way possible. And it's very, very fast. Yeah, so let's say we have the array here, which is the exact same as we had before, which are just a bunch of names that are all within the same array. And we can't process each one individually now. What we can do with the code node, using code, and by the way, if you're asking, how did you write the code? I just said split out the items from the array, and the array is this. And then if I run this, I can see that now, really quick, it split out the items in 5 different separately. So now we can go through 5 items individually. Now this did the same function as this, so this wouldn't make a lot of sense. But if you have something a lot more complex and you need the data to be transformed in a way where it would take you 7 or 8 different nodes, then you can do it all within the code node. Now, I'm not going to get into detail about this because, again, we're all here to not write code, right? But just know that you have this option to be able to write code with n8n, and it makes it a lot easier to do more complex stuff. You won't really need them for most of the time, but just knowing that you have the option there to use gives us a lot more flexibility when we're building automations. And then we have the merge node. So let me actually set this up. All right, so for the merge node, what I did is I put 2 different fields. One is hello, yo, and then the other one is hello, ciao. And when I run this automation, it will run this one first, and then it will run this one. And let's say I put a wait node here, where I can put 2 seconds, just for it to wait 2 seconds. I can show you that this right here will run first, and then it will run this one, right? Now, let's say that we had an automation where we had to run this, and then we wanted to run this, and then we wanted to go, right? Without us having to go through here first and run your whole automation, and then run through here first. Now, let's say that we had an automation that we start here and it goes 2 different ways, but then we want to aggregate the data. We want to send the data in the same way as 2 different inputs, input 1 and input 2, to then be able to take both pieces of information to then be able to go to the next steps. So that's exactly what the merge node does. If I go here, I can see, and also I can add more inputs. So if I press 4, it basically, it can intake more inputs at the same time. In this case, I can do 2. I can execute the step, and now we can see that we got 2 items. One is yo and one is ciao. So what it's doing here, it's aggregating both of them together. Now there are other options as well to combine to then SQL query, so we can query different things or different data points, and then we can also choose a branch. Now honestly, the one they're mostly going to use is going to be combine, and it's going to be append. Now append in this case would be output each item individually, and combine is taking these 2 and just putting them all in the same sort of array that you can use for the next steps. Now here's a system that I built that uses the merge nodes, 3 different ones. And the way that this works is that we have the LinkedIn post, which is made, the Facebook post was made, and then we want to merge them. So we have the Facebook post and the LinkedIn post, and then we have the Twitter post, which is made, the article, which is made, and then we're merging these 2 together as well to then finally merge all 4 things together so we can directly send them to the Google Sheet. And the reason why we're merging them is because if we run each one individually, then we would have to set up a new automation for each row at a single time to add them to the Google Sheet, which we can actually just remove by just merging them all together in the same sort of structured way, it's different items, to then send them to the Google Sheet. So the next nodes right here are going to be connectivity and API. Now, API is the most important skill when it comes to automation. And if you haven't watched my video about fundamentals of API, just watch it up here. But it is the reason why apps get to talk to other apps, right? It's the reason why this app right here can talk to n8n, but this app right here can talk to this one, right? Or we can just talk to each other in different ways. So in this case, the first node that we have to learn is the HTTP request. Now, this is one of the most powerful nodes in n8n because when we go here and I go to action app, so this is taking an action within a single app, we can see that we don't have an infinite amount of nodes, right? Like we can stop here and then what? What if we have a software that we want to use, but we can't find it here? What do we do then? Well, in this case, we use the HTTP request. So let's say I wanted to use the free weather API, which gave me the API of the weather. And if I go here to n8n, I can't see any app that's called free weather API. So what I have to do is I have to set up the HTTP request of the free weather API, which I can find in the documentation right here. By the way, I covered this in an API fundamentals video. So if this makes no sense to you, please go watch that video because it will help a lot. But this right here is the API documentation, which is essentially a documentation which allows you to see exactly what you can automate and what you cannot automate within a software, and also how to set up the automation. And so by looking at this documentation here, I was able to set up the automation of the weather API, which looks at the temperature in London right now. And if I execute the step, I can see that now I'm still able to actually run the automation. I was still able to use the software without having to use the softwares here, which are already pre-made by n8n. And as you can see here, we have the different outputs. So London, we have the temperature degrees in Celsius, Fahrenheit, and different other informations as well. Then we have webhooks right here. Now, webhooks are a way for us to get notified when something happens. So let's say someone fills out a form. Well, it sends the data to the webhook. You remember this right here, the Typeform trigger? Well, behind the Typeform trigger is actually a webhook, which allows us to be able to get notified when something happens. Well, in that case, it's whenever the form is being submitted, it sends the data to the webhook through an API, right? So right here, we have the test URL, which is used for testing, and production URL, which is used when the automation is set to active. And then we have the different type of HTTP method, which again, is very similar to there because we have post, we have all these options, and these are the same ones that we have here. And then we have the path, which is just the way that we name the URL. And then this right here is a thing that you would connect to the software itself to then be able to, for us to get notified when something happens within that software. And respond to webhook will be the thing that will then respond back to the server that we got the information from. Now, to show you exactly how it works, what I'm going to do is use a software called Postman API, which allows us to send example test data to the webhook, right? I'm going to go in here, copy this, make sure you change this to post request. And then I'm going to paste this here, make sure this is the post request as well. And then the body will be, what is the thing that we're sending the webhook? In this case, let's just do full name, my name. Let me run this here. I want to press send. This will now start the workflow. As you can see here, now we started the workflow and we sent the full name here, which is the body, right? And this is how we send information from one server to another through a webhook. Now, let's say I had this connected. Now, all I have to do here is I have to change this to using respond to webhook node. And here, what we can do is we can just respond with workflow as finished. And so when I run this, I send this here, I can see that now we get the data workflow has finished. Now, this is amazing when we are sending data to a software or to a webhook in this case, and we want to get something back. So let's say we send the sign up link to a user in some sort of software. He signs up, we get something back. Lastly, it would be the AI integration. So this is one of the ones that are most commonly used. First one is the AI node. So this is just to create something with AI. So in this case, we can say, create a LinkedIn post about life. And here we have our OpenAI connected. The resource is text. The operation, which is the action that we're taking, is good. The model, it can be, you have a list of models here. You can use GPT-4 or latest, or you can use whatever you want. And then you have the prompts right here. The prompts, there are 3 different prompts that you can write. The first one is the system prompt. The system prompt is a prompt that you tell the AI, you give it an identity. So you are a helpful, intelligent XYZ assistant. Then you have user. So user is when you tell it to do something. So your task is to do XYZ. And assistant is when you give it some examples. In this case, let's keep it simple. I'm going to press execute step. And this will now create a LinkedIn post about life. And as you can see, sure, here's a thoughtful and professional LinkedIn post about life. And then it gives me a whole LinkedIn post that we can then use. Now, this AI step is used whenever we want to have some sort of data or some sort of input sent to AI, just like we would on ChatGPT, automatically, and then give us the output. For content, for any structured data that you want structured, for anything pretty much that you can think of AI playing a role in the automation, just as a linear thing, for it to do just that task in specific, only that task. And then we have the AI agent. If you haven't watched my AI agent 101 video, make sure to watch it up here. It explains exactly how you can build your first AI agent from scratch using n8n. But the AI agent is the reason, probably the reason why n8n blew up so fast, is because it had now the opportunity for us to use something that was connected to AI, that could think through, or that could remember the different conversation we had, but that was also hooked up to different tools. So in this case, if you scroll down, we can see that we hook it up to Gmail, we can hook it up to Airtable, we can hook it up to, well, pretty much anything. We have all these different softwares that we can use to then be able to connect it to the AI agent for it to actually take action. And a good thing is that the Gmail tool can be connected, and the Airtable tool can be connected, and the, let's say, Notion tool can be connected. And you can have as many connections as you want And this acts as a personal assistant that allow us to be able to take action on different things based on the input that we give it. So in this case, what it would look like is we would have a trigger, which would be, usually it would be an on-chat message, which means that we're chatting with the AI agent itself. And if I open chat, I can now see that I can speak to the actual AI agent, something that you can't do with the AI step. So I can say, hello. What this will do is that it will then talk to its AI. It will remember the conversation and then bring it back. It's sort of like a person that we're talking to. And the good thing is that the person itself has access to our softwares, which is amazing because now it can take action on our behalf based on the input that we give it. So if we say draft an email, it will then go to the Gmail tool and then do its thing. Same thing with Airtable and same thing with Notion. And the use case that you can think of this is pretty much anything, any task that you want a singular input data store. So you basically have, let's say, one chat message, right? We have one place, and through a series of inputs, so through a series of send an Gmail, send an Airtable, or create a Notion task or whatever it is, it takes actions in different softwares without us having to create a new automation for every single action that we want to take. All right, and if you want the full blueprint to this n8n, so you can always come back to it as a resource, make sure to check out the first link down below, which will take you to my free school community right here. You can go to the classroom section, you can go to the templates vault, and you will see the latest video, which will be in this case, 17 or 18 nodes to master n8n. You can then press this button right here to download the n8n automation blueprint and import it into your own account. And if you have no clue how to do that, no worries at all. You can always watch the tutorial right here, which will show you step-by-step how to do it. And if you apply and you get in, you also get access to the AI Automations 101 course, which is a very, very comprehensive guide that takes you from a real beginner in AI automation to someone who's actually able and willing to build automations for themselves for other businesses. The only catch is not everybody gets in, so please put some thoughts into your answers when you apply. So that marks the end of the video. And if you're someone who's been building with n8n and now actually want to go out and sell to businesses and apply this to a business use case, then make sure to check out this video on the screen where I show you 10 proven business use cases where you can apply AI agents and AI workflows within n8n, within sales, marketing, product, and service delivery. With that being said, I hope you found value from this video, and I'll see you in the next one.